I got something that kind of goes along those lines. Do you guys treat people that have the fear of public speaking?
Yes. So all of it's I don't know if you'll be surprised or not, but I was thinking about it the other day, and pretty much everything that we do, that we're afraid of, that we think about, has to do with mental health. Mm-hmm. So this would be an anxiety, right? A fear of public speaking. Yeah. It's usually coming from somewhere.
Hey, it works for me, and we are back with another episode number 88 of the Sarasota SpeaX podcast. My name is Brad Hannon.
Trey Martell.
Felipe Colon.
And we've got an amazing guest with an amazing name that I'm probably going to screw up, but we've got Vilia Dragovoy, the Director of Operations with Revitalizing Psychiatry. Center of Revitalizing Psychiatry. You're worried about screwing up, and I'll screw up. But that's okay. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank
and, we met briefly at SRQ Magazine, the party that they threw for the beginning of the year. I thought it would be great to have you on, mainly because mental health is such a massive, epidemic in our country. And obviously there's been incredible changes with this too. Like, this isn't something that I feel like we've always dealt with, but over the last however many years, it's been a big hot button topic. So I thought it would be cool if we brought you on and talked about this. But to start, really, like, as the director of operations of a psychiatrist operation, I'm sure you've come across some tips and tricks and some practical things. So why don't we start there with what the Center of Revitalizing Psychiatry does and how it might be able to help the everyday person that struggles with things.
Of course. Thank you for having me. It's very exciting. I think this is a really cool thing, that what you guys do here. So I'm very honored to be a part of this. So I co-own Center of Revitalizing Psychiatry. We're an outpatient mental health clinic, and we provide, I think, pretty much all of the outpatient mental health services, starting from psychiatric medication management, individual psychotherapy, group therapy, couples, family therapy. We even have intensive outpatient programs for adolescents and adults, and we have a lot of plans to continue to add services that would be beneficial for our clients and our community. We have been doing this within Sarasota for 12 years now, and we see clients starting as young as 5 years old, and I think the oldest client that we have, is 94.
Wow.
So it's never too late and never too soon. And we're just very happy to be here in terms of, yes, there's a great need for mental health within this community and pretty much across the country. So I think it's a perfect place to be for us, but it's also, we like to engage within the community to be in touch with what's happening, how we can help. And I think so far we've been helpful to thousands of people across the country. We also have an office in New Jersey. That office has been operating since 2003. So it's thousands of people that we helped and continue to help.
Before we get into kind of the expansion to Sarasota, because I know the New Jersey location was first, why don't we talk to the audience real quick about just some things that you may see in the practice, obviously on a regular basis, that can be treated with just simple kind of tips and tricks. I like to call them hacks, right? For your mental health and well-being.
Well, I don't know if you know, but the most common mental health issue is actually anxiety disorders. So that's the most common across the United States, across all ages. I think one of the easier or somewhat self-help tips to treat anxiety, especially if you're having a moment where you're nervous or you're preparing for something or you feel like an anxiety attack is coming, is what's called rule of threes. So 3 + 3 + 3. This is if you starting to feel uncomfortable, you can identify 3 things around you. So you just look around and you can say, I see a jacket, I see a water bottle, I see a microphone. And take your time to do that. And then the next 3 things that you have to do is identify 3 smells. I smell a flower, I smell Felipe next to me in his cologne.
Let's see what you did there.
Beard oils.
Very clever.
And I smell, I smell my own perfume. And so, and the next,
Your perfume smells great, by the way.
oh, you smell it? Thank you.
Not Felipe's cologne, but
I know, sorry. And so the next 3 is to move 3 body parts. So, and it doesn't have to be body parts, but it's usually the easiest. For example, you can play with your fingers, you can move your hair, if you have it, if it's movable.
she's attacking all of us. How did she know?
And then you can move your foot, you can raise your arm at the same time. It can be if you have a pencil next to you, if you have a phone, just move things. So what it does, it distracts you from your thoughts and from your worries, because now your senses are somewhere else rather than worrying about what's happening. And sometimes when we have an anxiety attack or just any kind of anxiety coming or fear, we don't often identify what it is or where it's coming from. So rather than being there and trying to figure out, just kind of distract yourself. So that's a kind of a quick tip. This will not cure the anxiety, it will not eliminate it, but this is something that for that moment, it will lower it.
Oh, that's
333.
brilliant. Yeah, that's
333.
That's brilliant because it's a
Actually, I've never
distraction,
heard
right?
that.
You don't
Yes.
have time to really think about the root cause of the anxiety.
Yes.
Anyway, in that moment, you just need to be done with it.
I got something that kind of goes along those lines. Do you guys treat people that have the fear of public speaking?
Yes. So all of it's I don't know if you'll be surprised or not, but I was thinking about it the other day, and pretty much everything that we do, that we're afraid of, that we think about, has to do with mental health.
Mm-hmm.
So this would be an anxiety, right? A fear of public speaking. Yeah. It's usually coming from somewhere. Why are you afraid to speak publicly? Are you worried about that people won't like you? Are you afraid of the rejection? Are you uncomfortable with the way you look, the way you sound? So there's any kind of fear has to do with a root cause. So that's where therapy comes in, where and the therapist will help you to identify that. Also, of course, coaching helps and practicing. And I personally had a very severe fear of public speaking.
Me too.
Before you came on the show, but now you're good. We fixed it.
Yes, thank you
Are
guys.
you-
So sometimes it just takes a group of
There you
good
go.
people and
Trey, I'm glad you're bringing it up because I was tempted to bring it up. I mean, this is a guy who refused to speak at our networking group meeting for like 2 years.
5 years, maybe.
5 years, and fast forward a few more years, and now he's got billboards. He's got his face on a truck.
He's not saying anything.
He's
on the
cheesing.
billboard.
Well, no, and he's on the internet every day
He's got
between
his
this
toothless
and
smile on the
Channel
back of his
7.
dump truck.
Channel 7. I mean,
No,
so it's
I-
come a long way.
And again, I don't have anxiety about anything else in my life, but I did for the longest time have a terrible fear of public speaking, and I'm an outgoing person. But if you put me in front of more than 5 people and you told me to stand up and say something, my ABCs, I would panic.
same here.
So I got over it by just forced myself.
But at
Sometimes-
least you're not a ginger whose skin will react. So I would get red, and then everyone would know. So like you could fake it, but I couldn't fake it. Then my eyes would water.
Did you
Literally,
have-
they would like I'm crying.
Did you have an inherent fear of public
Oh my
speaking?
gosh!
Really?
Yeah, I remember
Interesting.
running out of. I remember like in 5th grade, you had to like do a demonstration, like a speech on something that you're passionate about or you're knowledgeable about or whatever. And it was like for me at the time, it was like fishing.
Okay, let me
And I
rephrase the
did like
question.
this-
As an adult.
No, as an adult, yes.
That's
As
fifth
an,
grade.
as it, but it started as a kid, and yes, through my adulthood, before I really started, kind of just getting out there in front of people, like just kind of immersion, I guess, overcame it. But to end that story, I was trying to do a demonstration on casting this fishing pole into a trash can, like casting a lure into the trash can, whatever. I threw down the fishing pole. I ran out of the room. Like, I was like. My eyes started just watering, and so I don't know how I overcame it, but it wasn't necessarily with therapy or anything like that. But here we are, so, public speaking.
Here we are.
Rewinding to one of the first things you said, which was medication therapy. In our society now, there's kind of a divide, I would say, with medications or more practical application to overcome some of these anxieties and fears and depressions and things like that, and also the whole other side of it with SSRIs and kind of the detrimental side of it. Does your practice focus on both medication-based treatment and non-medication-based treatment?
Of course, I think every case is unique, and you can't have same approach to everyone. We have clients that come with questions or issues that can be treated by just therapy, for example, or just by simply changing a daily regimen. And there are clients who come in and they do need medication because, for example, there are disorders such as bipolar disorder. Mm-hmm. There's only so much you can do in therapy, but bipolar disorder is and I'm not a clinician, so I just want to disclose that of any kind, but it's a chemical imbalance. So like any disorder, it should be treated together with regimen changes, diet, exercise, therapy, and medication. But that would be for med provider to decide what is best for that specific case. Even bipolar disorders, just like most disorders, there's different severities. Mm-hmm. And so I think with a proper treatment, people can enjoy their life to the fullest and not be over-medicated. So that's where the experience of a provider comes in, and two people with bipolar disorder will be on different doses and maybe even on different medications or combinations of different medications. So it's a very specific, and that's why if there are any questions regarding medication, people should come in for consultation. And we have had cases where a person would come in and the provider would say, medication, you don't need medication. Why don't we start here first and see how you go?
Yeah.
And there have been people who come to therapy and said, this is great, but it sounds like, we may need to start on slow dose of a medication. Why don't you see a med provider for consultation and we'll start off, and then they usually work together.
Yeah, I think that's great because overprescribing of those types of things was rampant, obviously, and hey, we all feel a little bit better if we take a Xanax every now and again, but that's like, and I'm not condoning it. I'm just saying, like, you take a Xanax, you're going to be a lot less.
I've never taken a Xanax, so I wouldn't know.
I don't think I have really either, but seriously, I don't really think I don't have, like, my wife would take it before flying or something like that. Like I never.
And there are medications.
Come on, Trey.
There are different types of medications, and there are, for example, we're talking about anxiety. There are medications for anxiety that don't have to be taken every day. Mm-hmm. People would take, let's say, a quarter of a dose when they're starting to feel anxious or when they're preparing for something that they know will cause anxiety. It could be flight, public speaking. It could be, any type of presentation. Right. So
a parent-teacher conference or something, right? I'm sure that's stressful.
Yes, that can be.
So I'm building a prototype client for you, right?
Okay.
So someone with anxiety disorder, how do you gain that client? Is it referred from someone typically, or?
There are different ways that people reach out to us. One way would be, of course, person realizes they need help, which is one of the hardest things we can do, is to realize we need help.
They're self-aware they need help. They walk through your doors. They sign up. Mm-hmm. What does the regimen look like, for someone that doesn't know anything about this? Do they sit down in a chair from a psychiatrist for an hour session like you see in movies?
During the actual session?
Yes.
So for med management, the initial evaluation would be 1 hour long and could be done virtually or in office. And for 1 hour, provider who already has some of your medical history, because we're asked to provide certain information ahead of time, would ask you questions to talk about your symptoms, why you're here, what's going on. Sometimes people have never had medication or any kind of exposure to any kind of mental health. There would be different type of interview as opposed to, I know what's wrong with me, I need, certain amount of this medication. And then, but still, a doctor or a psychiatric nurse practitioner would still evaluate and see, do I really think this is the best for you? So it would be 1 hour long first time. And then for follow-up appointments, it's really 20 to 30 minutes where a physician will follow up with you. So how are you doing? Any side effects? What's going on with you? And then he or she will decide, do we continue on the same regimen or do we need to make any changes? And the key here is to be honest with the provider about the symptoms and your thoughts and so on. So because medications, sometimes it takes time to adjust the dose. Things happen, the personal things, you may need extra anxiety medication or less of. So it's an ongoing process. So usually our clients have follow-up visits every month. Some with less severe cases can come every 3 months, but that's again between the patient and the provider to decide. So that would be for psychiatric medication management.
And there's probably the whole flip side of that would be like the client who's not on a medication but wants to come in weekly, monthly for more consultation and just kind of to talk through things? And that's a therapy you guys offer as well?
Yes. So for therapy, all therapy appointments, or most of them, are 60 minutes. And most clients, when they start, it's weekly, because a month later, if you don't see a therapist, a lot of things happen, right? To us, sometimes if you see a therapist and the next day something happens, like, oh, I wish I could speak with someone. So usually it's weekly. Sometimes, depending on what the request is. For example, if I'm coming to a therapist and saying, I don't know how to speak with my children, so they'll work with you on that. And if you finally feel comfortable and you feel like you've gained a lot of information and enough to go on, you will stop going to therapy. Usually what happens by opening one door, many doors open, because any issue is not just one issue, right? The communication especially. Why is there a problem? Is it something that you're doing differently, or your child? And then in many cases, it's us as parents. We think we know best. So there's a lot of different things that need to be addressed, and sometimes these sessions, individual sessions, become family therapy sessions or couples therapy sessions. So it's I find human psychology very fascinating, and just a lot of hidden gems there.
So it's difficult to kind of talk about this like a business, right? Because you guys are really doing a service to the community in a way as well, right? But we kind of have to, because that's how we kind of get to the details that we think our viewers want to know and that we want to know, so we really understand how we can better support you and how other people can access what you do. Mm-hmm. So what is, just to make it crystal clear, you guys provide the counseling, right? You don't do the medical side.
We do.
Oh, you do?
We do everything.
Okay. So somebody gets prescribed the medication in your office, and you dispense the medication, and you do the therapy sessions.
We will prescribe it. We won't dispense it.
Okay.
And it's up to the client. Not every client who is on medication management has a therapy, and not every client who is in therapy has medication management.
It's whatever fits that.
Whatever fits. And sometimes we have clients who already have a therapist, and their therapist referred to us for psychiatric medication management only. Or, for example, we have an intensive outpatient program, which is basically an intensive therapy program where clients come in for 9 hours a week, and it's divided in 3 days. But so they'll be more intense. So these clients could already have a psychiatrist and a therapist outside of our practice, and they'll just come for the program, for example. So there's different types. And to answer your earlier question, the referral service, we get a lot of referrals from the local community. We get from the SMH and other PCPs in the area, as well as insurance companies. And of course, our phone number is everywhere. And so, well, not everywhere yet, but we're working on it.
Can you differentiate for the audience between a psychiatrist and a therapist?
I'm glad you asked that. So I think the biggest confusion is between psychiatrist and psychologist.
Okay.
Because they sound so similar.
Yeah.
So a psychiatrist is a medical doctor, MD, in psychiatry. So they, as a doctor, they understand the medication, the physiological process of it. So they're psychiatrists. A psychologist is a person who has a PhD in psychology. So they don't work with medication, but they understand perfectly
the brain,
mental health, the brain, the disorder, the psychological side of this. A therapist is usually a person who has master's degree in psychology. So when we say therapist, usually when we say therapist, psychologists kind of go under that, and usually people sometimes use psychologist and they assume psychology therapist, same thing. But the distinction is this: therapist master's degree, psychologist is a PhD, and psychiatrist is MD.
Gotcha.
And sometimes we have clients who call and say, I need a psychiatrist, and they're talking about therapy. It's like, are you probably need a psychologist? No, I need a psychiatrist.
You guys employ all of those types?
Yes, so we have psychiatrists, we have psychiatric nurse practitioners, which provide exactly the same service as psychiatrists, and there's no difference. This is not similar to physician assistants, so they're fully trained and licensed to do exactly the same thing. And then we have psychologists, we have therapists, and we have life coaches. So life coaches are people who are coaches and very similar to therapists, but they may not have a master's degree or psychology degree specifically in this country or in any country. So I'm
glad you threw life coaches in the mix, because I feel like, especially around here, that's a very popular thing that people, a lot of people bill themselves as life coaches, and a lot of people seek out life coaches because they're not ready to take that leap towards those formal sounding, degree obtaining professionals, right?
Yes.
Do you guys see a lot of like entrepreneurs, business owners? Obviously we're under immense stress and pressure a lot of times, and that's like a great avenue would be like a life coach or even a therapist that you can talk to. You guys see that quite a bit, or what's the life coach? If you're marketing that service that you offer, what's the target audience for that?
So life coach and therapists are very similar. Life coach is it's a lighter therapy, we'll call it that.
Right.
Where a life coach may not dive as deep into your past or into your fears, but more like general advice and guide you through life situations, where a therapist will evaluate, analyze, and so go deeper. Our life coaches actually do have a psychology degree outside of the United States, so they're actually psychologists. They just don't have a degree in this country.
Oh, I see.
But so our life coaches,
They're the real deal life coaches.
they're really fascinating. Yes.
Hey, we are having a very interesting discussion here with Vilia of Center of Revitalizing Psychiatry. If you want to get to know a little bit more about her and her business, stay tuned for rapid fire questions fueled by food and beer.
I'm Vilia Dragovoy. I'm co-owner of the Center of Revitalizing Psychiatry, and this is Rapid Fire.
10 random questions, 10 specific answers, nothing off limit. This is Rapid Fire, fueled by food and beer. What's your favorite TV show?
Currently, the only one that comes to mind is Yellowstone.
Where is the rattlesnake in the deal? I am the rattlesnake.
You're obviously really successful, but where was your first job?
Cleaning under refrigerators of an old, unclean bakery.
Do you remember what you ate for breakfast?
I don't eat breakfast,
What about second breakfast?
but I guess my lunch was breakfast, so I had some cheese bread with tomato juice.
Terrific. Thanks for your time.
If the machine existed, would you time travel or teleport to anywhere in the world?
That's a tough one. I think time travel could be dangerous if I go there.
Great Scott.
So probably just teleport.
So you can teleport. Congratulations. Welcome to the club. You are a superhero.
Chilling on the beach or hiking in the mountains?
The beach.
You can only eat 3 foods the rest of your life. What are they?
Sushi. My background is, from Soviet Union. So anything with Russian, Ukrainian food. I don't know. Borscht and Russian potato salad.
If you weren't in your current occupation, what other line of work would you be in?
A travel agent.
Where you going?
I just love to travel.
Who going with you?
What's a skill you don't have, but wish you did?
Reading people's minds.
Today, I'm going to read your mind through the screen.
If you're stranded on a deserted island, would you rather be with your worst enemy or just be by yourself?
Alone.
39 days, 18 people, 1 survivor.
The Bayfront Park.
So we want to get real practical. Again, it's something that when I look at this, we've talked about kind of the life coaching as more surface, not going quite as deep, and then the intensive therapies in those 9-hour, a week type of situations that are obviously a lot more intensive. The one that I think, and just an opinion, would be like the most worrisome or the most troublesome is that kind of right in the middle, right? If you're dealing with severe anxiety, depression, you're not, unaware of it, hopefully you're going to take steps to get treatment. But I think it's a lot of those people that are in the middle, like that lukewarm, they may struggle with some things, but don't know how to turn or don't feel like it's severe enough to turn somewhere. What would your advice be to just the average person that has some anxiety, depression, some fear, here and there, and maybe it's situational. Like, is that treatable? Is that something that, you know, they should be talking to a therapist? Or because I have my opinion on it, but I'm just curious as to, you know, your thoughts.
Of course. I think just like with anything, the sooner you address the issue, the easier it's going to be to fix it or to prevent from happening. So to me, there's no such thing as too early. If you start to feel any type of discomfort with your mental state, for example, I find myself more irritable, or why am I snapping at people, or why does it bother
Never
that you're looking at me that
right?
way?
Never happens, right?
Never, of course not. Everybody's perfect. So when you start, so as soon as that starts, I think that's the time when you should realize that maybe, you know what, I don't like being this way. I don't feel comfortable being irritated all the time, or yelling at my kids, or I don't know, fighting with my husband. This is the time to call a therapist or a mental health clinic like us. It doesn't have to be us, and have a session. Again, by speaking with a professional, in most cases, people will feel better. They won't feel like they're the only ones who have this problem, because I think that's one of the things we're experiencing. Oh, I'm the only one with this anxiety. I'm the only one who's depressed. I'm the only one who's struggling. And the reality is most of us are in the same boat. So I think going to a session and speaking with someone will already alleviate that discomfort.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you will start addressing it. And in most cases, by addressing it, once you understand the root cause of things, it's not the person that you irritated. It's not your kid's fault. That's the thing within you that you need to address, and life does get easier.
Yeah.
So
All right, so if I'm an individual, I've identified I have a problem, I'm looking for somewhere to go. Why the Center of Revitalizing Psychiatry over another clinic? What makes you guys special and stand out?
Well, we are family-owned and operated. We are, I think, one of the probably somewhat in a unique position where, for our size, the fact that we're still family-owned and operated, I'm always in our Florida office. We're quite flexible with adjusting schedules. We open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., and that means physical office, but we actually see sometimes patients until 8, and depending on providers, we see as early as 6:20 a.m. So schedule is flexible. We also have a therapist who sees patients on Saturdays, and this is convenient for people working in school and so on. Also, we do treat our staff and patients as part of the family. We are patient-centric, and we want to make sure that we provide the best care. I haven't been to any other mental health clinic yet, so I can't speak for them, but I do believe that the services that we provide will provide a lot of flexibility. We also accept all insurances, including Medicare, and so there's a lot of flexibility, schedule, pay options, and of course we have, I think right now we have 22 providers. So there's also...
Is that in Florida or?
In Florida only.
Okay.
New Jersey office is about the same size.
Gotcha.
So there are also options, because it's also important to find a right fit. A great therapist is not going to be great for everyone.
In your industry, what carriers provide the best insurance for your line of work?
I'm the insurance guy, bro.
Medicare?
Yeah, Medicare. Bro.
That's the one that provides the best coverage for everything, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Basically, government.
So wait till you're
checks don't bounce.
65. Wait till you're 65.
I was kind of curious. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Good. Go ahead.
But you mentioned the family-owned and operated thing. Is that becoming less common? Because I know in other fields of medicine, you have the roll-up. You know, the private equity company comes around and they buy all of one type of field, and then they put them on one system, and then all of a sudden your patients aren't seeing the same people anymore.
We have heard that feedback from patients who came from similar practices, who were on a smaller scale and were acquired by another larger company or corporation. I can see how that personal touch will get lost, just like as a company gets too big to control everything, care, thank you.
Right.
So yes, and I think that's one of the advantages we have. And
very cool. We like to support family-owned and operated. You know, someone
Speaking
at
on
this
the
table
family,
says that a lot.
The family business. What family members are in your business?
So my mom, Dr. Marina Turkova, she started this practice in 2003 in our New Jersey office in Hackensack, New Jersey. And then 10 years later, when she came on vacation to this beautiful Sarasota to visit friends, she said, "It's beautiful, I like it, I'm moving, and I'm opening another practice." So, and from what I understand, I think everything was done in one weekend. They found a house, they found space, and then it's been 12, 13 almost years. It can be 13 in Sarasota since then. So mom started, and then my sister Alina, she joined the practice about 10 years ago, and I joined 4 years ago. So it kind of was happening in a somewhat slower way, but I think my sister and I now we're co-owners, so we're taking practice, we're trying to take it to the next level in terms of, marketing, technological advances, also mental health. It's not just about medication or therapy. There's so many other services that mental health office can provide. And we want to make sure that we offer that to our clients.
And not even modern, not even like is like traditional medicine too. There's a lot of like alternative type stuff in that space that the results show is working, right? So
yes, I think a lot of the direction of any type of care, I think, is going more towards natural, towards healing, rather than pharmacological. It's going to, was it naturologicals? Is that the word? Instead of pharmacological.
Nutraceuticals.
Nutraceuticals, okay, pharmaceuticals.
Yeah.
I think I just made up a word that doesn't even sound right.
Medicine's not really you know a lot about medicine.
But nutraceuticals, yes.
I watch you down about 8 pills when you come in here.
The transition to Sarasota, because obviously we're on Sarasota SpeaX, talking about Sarasota. The transition to Sarasota, your mom was a part of, your sister came on after that transition was already made. So what have really from the time that your mom started in Sarasota to the time your sister started and beyond, what have you seen change with the practice in Florida or in Sarasota? Like, has it grown quite a bit since then? Has it kind of been maintained, or what's the status of it over the last decade?
It definitely has grown. I think when mom started, I think at that point was one psychiatric nurse practitioner and her as a psychiatrist. And I think later on, more therapists and more psychiatric nurse practitioners and MDs have joined the practice. Last year alone, I believe, I don't have the numbers with me, but I think we've hired 5 new therapists.
Wow.
And we're still hiring. And so we have 2 new starting with us next month. And we still need more. The demand is so great, the need is so great for mental health that, we want to make sure that we can provide the best that we can.
I want to, before we get into the Sarasota-based question, I want to kind of put a spin on this real quick. As an employer with a lot of employees, and as someone who wants to make sure those employees are taken care of, what advice do you have for employers specifically, or leaders, whether it's leading a business or leading a group of people that deal with real life problems and have real life issues? How would you advise somebody dealing with people with mental health and kind of best practices? I know that's tough, but
it is tough as a business owner because you work with people, but you also have business to run. So I think it's very tough, and to give an advice, it's also even harder.
Well, nobody better.
But I think people appreciate when we as owners or we as managers pay attention to what is going on in their lives. For example, if an employee has difficult time getting on time to work, and we don't know what the reasons are. And I've had situations like this. I spoke to an employee where perhaps we can change your schedule. Maybe we can change your schedule to adapt to whatever's happening. And I never asked what is happening. I said, you don't have to tell me, but is there something we can do to make it work? Especially if it's a good employee, you want to work with them. Also, it's up to you, but I think a lot of times different practices or businesses do have some kind of, during the day, maybe a 5-minute fun activity, and not everybody has to do it at once because somebody has to manage the phones in the practice.
Right.
But it could be fun things, or it could be, if you have a break room, it could be, I don't know, for example, a puzzle is left there, or like even a coloring book. I know it sounds silly, but they do have.
Sounds quite silly, really.
But even coloring, because that does relax rather than sitting in a lunch room eating your sandwich all by
I
yourself.
think for a lot of people, it's cupcakes in the break room or some junk like that, right?
You know, I
Drink
tried.
soda and snacks.
I tried it, but then people say, "Well, cupcakes again," or
Or, "I
I'm,
can't eat it, I
I'm watching
can't
my
eat it."
figure,
Yeah.
or I don't like icing.
Exactly.
I think something more neutral would help out. But I think showing that you care and having an open door when people can speak to you, I think that's helpful. There are other things that you can do, but then that's really, it's.
It sounds like
up
what you're
to you.
saying. The answer is culture, right?
Yeah.
Creating a culture
Yes.
where that kind of stuff is.
Exactly.
But, that's a good question you raised, Brett. And I would think the biggest thing you got to watch out for is hiring, right? Because with mental health issues especially, there's a really fine line between watching out for your business and being discriminatory, right?
Yeah.
So you need to kind of walk that carefully.
You think the
Absolutely.
coloring books would fly with John Cologne? That fixes all his issues.
You just bring the coloring book one day, and you're just in there
You'll
coloring.
be surprised.
Hey, I believe it works. Well, with that being said, I want to kick it over to Trey here with a Sarasota-based question. I'm sure you have a feeling on this, and I'm sure this causes some anxiety for some.
Hi, I'm Trey, and Terminator Law wants to know, what are your feelings on roundabouts? Do you love them? Do you hate them? Do you get anxiety when you go through them?
I have mixed feelings.
Mixed feelings.
I like them unless it's a rush hour. I think with recent increase in traffic, it's getting more and more challenging, and I do get slight anxiety thinking, does the person in front of me know how to use this thing?
Yeah.
So
Are you one to lay on the horn?
no, I stopped that. I'm moving from New York, New Jersey area where everybody,
I was going to ask you, what part of New Jersey is the other clinic in?
Hackensack, New Jersey, it's Bergen County.
Oh, yeah.
It's
So
right
you're
across
there.
from the,
You're
yes.
right there. Okay. So
But-
you have the jug handles for the turns off the road?
Yes,
Yeah, I got you.
and lots of traffic lights.
Jug
But there's just,
Yeah,
Okay, yeah,
it's
I
like
got
when
you.
instead of you can't make a left anywhere,
it.
you got to go on the.
They have one
yeah.
jug handle I'm aware of in Sarasota.
Do we?
Yeah,
oh, yeah,
it's
you told me
Fruitville,
about that.
out
Yeah.
by Center
That's funny.
Ridge Road or something like that. It's where you go to pull permits for Sarasota County.
the weirdest intersection is 75 and University.
Oh,
Because
the-
you go against,
Yeah.
The
That was-
diverging
That's called
Is
a
that what it's
diverging
called?
diving.
Yeah.
it took me a few months because I'm not sure if I'm going to go the right way. It just kind of throws you off.
I'm still not
I
really
think
sure.
if I think about it, it makes sense, but at this point, I just follow the crowd.
Get used to it. They're building more.
I saw
Yeah.
it. I forgot where, but there is one coming. Oh, I think it's
North. I think maybe.
Is it either Bee Ridge or?
I think 70 in Riverview. There's a bunch proposed all up and down.
So
Some
there's
some
one
urban
already
planner
there. You're
decided
right.
this is
Either-
the future.
Also, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. It works there. Just odd.
Mm-hmm.
Coming from New York, New Jersey.
Well, so when we ask about roundabouts, obviously it's fun to complain about traffic. Everybody in Sarasota loves to do it. But we're also really asking how people feel about growth and change and just Sarasota becoming not a sleepy little beach town anymore, not really just a retirement community, something else. So, what's your impression as somebody whose family's been here, started a business here, and is now, then you came and now you're running that business?
Well, considering that I'm one of the people that came here with the pandemic
Yeah.
exactly 4 years ago.
Self-awareness is very nice.
Yes, I have also mixed feelings. I think, as everything else, Sarasota is developing and evolving, and I think you can't ignore that, and you can't prevent people from coming. And the reason why they're coming because it's so beautiful. So I think for me, I embrace it, but yes, everything is in moderations. I think as people are moving here, it would be nice to see expansions in terms of, accommodating maybe bigger streets, bigger roads, but we don't want to ruin the beautiful landscapes of Florida. So I'm
Right.
sure there are challenges, but overall, I'm happy to be here. If they're gonna close the doors tomorrow, I'm okay with that, but I
Well,
hope.
I'm not. I need customers.
Yeah, I was
people still
driving.
die, right?
I was driving in the passenger. Yeah, real morbid.
this is the
I was
truth.
driving in the passenger seat of a very wise man one time, and we were complaining about the traffic. And he looked over and he said to me, "You know what? I view them as clients."
That is
That
a very
man
good
was
point.
Felipe Colon. And I think about that time that you said that to me every once in a while when I get annoyed with
I never
traffic.
get annoyed with the traffic
Yeah.
because the way I see it, and this is less the case as we got, Sarasota's more diverse now, but when I first moved here, I said, these people they're paying for all this. So, drive as slow as you want, keep it coming.
And now we got the roundabouts to keep the traffic moving.
I think one of the reasons why Sarasota is getting beautiful facelift is because of all the economy that's flowing into the
Yeah,
state
we,
and into the
we're
city.
pro-growth, so
I don't like to use the word because when people get really crazy when you say I'm pro-growth,
I'm pro-growth.
Well, that works for you. I got to be a little more diplomatic, Trey. That's just how it goes. But,
More roofs.
We're pro improvement, which includes growth.
Evolution.
And final question is, you see what we do here in Sarasota Speaks.
Yes. You have fun.
Go ahead.
Actually, I was going to ask you one more thing that I think the viewers will find in before we hit the final question. So, you guys are you and your family are in a unique position as running a clinic in two very different places, right? Yes. You're in Bergen, Hackensack, New Jersey metro area. We all know what the stereotypes are of that place. And then you're down here in Sarasota. We got Siesta Key, the beach, the arts, Creative Coast, whatever. What do you see as some of the, do you see a difference in the clientele and the types of things people come to you for between the two locations?
There's some difference. I think, as you mentioned, lifestyle is very different there versus here and here versus there. I feel there people, by the time they come to us there, they're already very much stressed out. The anxiety levels go through the roof. They're all...
Generally speaking, they're more pissed off up there.
We can say that.
Look at the tax rate. I mean, Jersey, it's tough.
I think the life itself, in terms of the pace, is very different.
Yeah.
Being there and coming here, I am a different person now. I was not this calm before, and this is the calm me. But so when people come to us, everybody's very busy. There's a lot of corporate jobs, so they don't have much time for this. They don't have time for them. They're always in a rush. So people don't spend as much time, or they don't invest as much into their mental health because it's the easiest thing to neglect. People will go to gym. They'll spend hundreds of dollars a month, but go to a therapist or to inquire what is going on with me, why am I depressed? That is time consuming.
Right. You don't exactly wear your mental health on your face, right? You know
exactly.
what I mean? Like other aspects of health. Exactly. It's pretty obvious when someone's neglecting.
It's unfortunately like cancer. Until it comes out, you don't know. Until you start coughing, you don't know that it's there. Yeah. So mental health affects everything, and it's very easy to neglect. Where in Florida, I feel like people are more aware of what's going on. I think they want to, I feel like there's more time somehow in terms of to take care of yourself and to invest into yourself. And so I feel like clients that we have here come at earlier stage of their anxiety and of the depression. And I think here there's less stigma here with mental health than up north. And I think it's also very important. I think stigma around mental health is just so huge that a lot of people won't even come or won't even consider to come and ask for help because they're like, well, if I ask for help, then I'm crazy. Everybody's going to think I'm crazy. And that's also a word, right? Shrink and being crazy. Those are the words people think about mental health rather than happy and satisfied with life and
Is shrink
relaxed.
A politically incorrect term?
I don't think so, but it's a reference to I think sometimes it's referred to a psychiatrist, sometimes to a therapist. I think it's a
broad term.
Broad term that doesn't really explain what it is, but I don't think people get offended by it. I can ask our shrinks.
That's good. That's good. Oh man, that's funny. I was going to ask you something else, but it slipped my mind. So we're going to go into kind of our last question. You've been on Sarasota Speaks. You see what we do here. Thanks for coming, by the way. We enjoyed it. Hope you did as well.
Thanks for inviting me. This is very cool.
Cool. So who do you know who we may not know, who Sarasota needs to know? Who can you recommend that we invite on Sarasota Speaks podcast?
Well, I would highly recommend not only my very, very, very good friend and just a wonderful, amazing woman, but also a business owner, Karen Medford of Serious Day Spa and Med Spa. She is amazing in every possible way. When I moved here, she was the one who was my business person, consultant, coach to go to because I knew nothing about.
How did you meet her when you moved here?
We met through our kids.
Oh,
we were at the community pool and kids started talking and then, I don't know, husbands started talking and then we started talking and we became best friends ever since.
There you go. That's how friendships are made in Sarasota, by the pool or the beach. Right?
Yes, people are friendly here.
Very cool. Okay. Well, listen, thanks so much. Really appreciate you sharing your story and what you do. And we look forward to hearing more great things.
Awesome.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks a lot for coming.
Thank you.
I know you have
It's
a
been
high
fun.
history.